We are.
We have a lot going on all the time.
Well, and it's not just that. We the way we schedule things
Yeah.
is problematic because
No, it's not.
it is.
No, it's not.
Because it's it's idealistic in that it hold on, I'm going to do something. No, I'm just going to leave it. It's fine. It's idealistic in that we don't leave any margin,
Yeah.
and there's kind of like this idea that we'll finish this thing and immediately be able to jump into the next thing, and that is rarely the case. I don't know if
Well.
it's the lighting or what's going on, but I look tired.
I mean, we're both tired.
I feel like I've got like I'm just gonna like put my hat down like this the whole time. I did not sleep well last night.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just thinking
it's
about
been like 3 nights.
all the
for me.
things, a lot of things.
Yeah.
Also, it's 71 degrees and super humid, like 90%
Yeah,
humidity.
it's been really humid.
And I hate it because I set up this studio in the garage thinking, oh, this time of year it should be fine.
Yeah.
I've got some time. I did some insulation work. I've got a little bit more that I need to do. And then we just got the new AC that I want to install. But I was like, but I can do stuff in here. Like we can do the podcast in here and I can do other stuff in here. And it's, like it's not going to be a big deal. And I'm just like,
Sweaty all the
yeah.
time. Yeah.
it's dumb.
Texas for you.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know if we've ever had this much humidity in December
Yeah.
because I start looking forward to runs because, you get tired of the humidity in summer
Mm-hmm.
and you look forward to when you can go out in the morning and it's not, you don't start sweating as soon as you like run 100 yards,
Yeah. Oh, I get
So-
so gross during the workout.
Mhm.
This is what people tune in for, right? So we have a double show today. We are doubling up episodes because we
lost one
Yeah,
when we
we-
went for our New York trip.
and we want to get through all of the planned episodes before the holiday break. So we've got 2 today and then one more
Yeah, next week.
next week before we take a short break.
So we might make these a little bit shorter.
So I say
We go ahead and get
as
started.
yeah, as soon as
Yeah.
as soon as I can get this thing queued up, we go for it.
Agreed.
All right, I'm gonna put this up here. So the two, ooh, that got my funny bone, like
yeah.
right there.
Ouch.
Okay, I'm good. Sorry for the noise, folks. Okay, so today we are talking about how to finish strong. Last week we talked about getting started.
Yeah.
So this is kind of last week actually would have been a good
I know. For a
doubler,
double.
but,
Yeah. That's what I thought too.
but we're going to talk about how to finish strong, and then we're going to talk about what? I wrote it down somewhere. I think it's the importance of play.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I remember that one.
So first, finishing strong.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to In the Boat with Ben and Rachel. I'm Ben,
And I'm Rachel.
and this podcast exists to address common creator struggles and provide weekly inspiration for your creator journey. How are you doing today, Rachel?
I'm a little tired, which I know you are too. So
Yeah,
we've been not sleeping as well as we should. But
it's really a problem because I have a lot. I put a lot on my plate going into the Christmas holiday, stuff that I want to get done before the break. So I've got this like really, hard deadline.
yeah.
And what I need, energy and, focus wise and stuff like that,
Yeah.
is to be able to, like, I kind of need to burn the candle at both ends a little bit. Like I need to be able to jump in and get stuff done.
Just for a few weeks.
And what happens is because I've got all these things swimming around in my brain, last night I just could not shut it off.
That's
And
how
so
I
it's
was
like,
too.
listen, brain, I get it. You're like thinking about all
Freaking
these,
out. Yeah.
but we're not going to be able to do what we need to do if you
Yeah.
keep, I talk to myself sometimes.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talk to myself sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. We talked about that a little bit
Yeah,
last
we
week,
did.
didn't we?
Yeah. That's actually a good segue, though, into not the talking to yourself, but, having all of this at the Christmas holidays and stuff. A good segue into finishing strong.
Yeah. Well, and it's not so much when I was thinking about this topic, I was really thinking about it from the angle of I have a tendency with some creative projects and also, some projects around
Home
the house,
improvement.
home improvement projects. I have a tendency to get to the end and I'm like, well, it's mostly done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can just not put my tools away back where they go. I can just leave the files a mess. I can just leave these extra files that I don't need in that folder, and that's, I'm getting into like really specific kind of habits, but that kind of thing, where it's
Yeah.
like some of this really would, finish out the project.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like, that kind of, the metaphor is you get to the end of the race and you just keep running, through the tape, through the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I find myself getting, within 100 yards and I can see it and I'm like,
You start
okay,
slowing
I
down.
start to slow down.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, as creative people, sometimes it feels like we work all the time. And so putting those things away, like if we do art or something like that, putting those things away feels like, but what if I have a fantastic idea or something,
Yeah.
So you want to have all that stuff at the ready. But I actually feel like there's a really important delineation between work time and home time. And maybe that's just the way that my brain works in segmentation and stuff. But for me, to achieve some kind of balance, I have to have a time when I put things away and I'm finished for the day,
When I finally get around to making the space that we're in right now more habitable, I really love the idea of coming to work in here. So right now, like most days, I really only come in here if I need to record something.
Mm-hmm.
And like it is a studio, but it also could be my office if I made it, like if I set up the environment that way. So most days right now I'm working I'm sitting at the kitchen table or there's a desk in our living room area that I sit at. But I really like the idea of like, oh, okay, I'm done with work for the day.
Yeah.
And walking out of this room, shutting the door behind me and leaving work there for the most part. And it physically doing that does this thing for me mentally that I think you're kind of getting at is like, okay, I can leave this stuff behind now. And I guess that's a little bit different from putting stuff away.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is value to when you're done with a project. Like I will get all of my things out and they're everywhere and that's kind of how I work.
Yeah.
But when I'm thinking about when I'm wanting to start the next project, I end up, by not putting things away, I end up stealing time from myself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because when I come to the next project, I'm like, oh, where is that thing again? Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
left it over here.
Yeah,
Instead of being able to just like, oh, this thing belongs here, so I know I can get it from here, that kind of thing.
I was actually going to mention that. I didn't know if you wanted to take it in this direction, but what I try and aspire to do every day after I'm done with my writing, I have like separate file folders for each book I'm working on with a friend, or, you know, a particular book I'm working on, or business. I have a business file folder. So when I'm done with those things for the day, I try to slide them back into the proper slots so that I can find it the next day, and so that my desk is clean when I come there, you know, or my writing spaces are clean. Because there's something, and this might be just me also, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not, but there's something so freeing about coming into a space and just seeing it wide open for possibility, you know?
Yeah.
Like everything is put in its proper place, and you can just do whatever and use your creativity. And, you know, I don't know, that my brain loves that. So
I think most people's brains love that. I think some
hard.
people's brains have trouble creating that kind of space for themselves. What I think happens to me if I'm trying to describe what's going on in my mind is, let's say, you know, the thing that I'm working on is publishing a video. In my brain, it's really hard for me not to think about hitting the publish button as the final thing on that checklist. It's like, because that was the whole point of doing this, was to get that thing out there. And so because of that, you know, I know that after publishing, there are some things that I need to do for distribution. You know, like if I want to share that video outside of YouTube, there are, if it's something for work, there are additional steps that I need to do in order to make sure that's shareable on our website. They're just like these little extra things. And then there's, you know, like we were talking about physical workspace, but there's also like, there's a digital workspace.
Yeah.
My digital workspace is a mess.
Yours is a mess.
Because I don't think about like, oh, like going back and cleaning up the files. Maybe I needed this or that just for that specific video, but that's not something I'm going to need, and it's just taking up space. You know, that kind of thing I'm really bad about, because it's like, no, my brain's like, you already did the last step. Why do you have to do all this other stuff?
Yeah. You're done, right?
It helps me to think about and allow time for myself for those, you know,
other
kind of
tasks.
final, those actual final steps.
Yeah, I was going to say, and maybe this is one of the tips, but putting a process in place for those finishing steps can be really helpful, because then it's like they become habit, you know?
Yeah. And it's really important to budget that time. Sometimes it's a self-imposed thing. Like you're like, oh, I got to get this done. And I know that it takes me 2 hours or I know it'll take me 2 hours to finalize the edit and to publish it. Give yourself that extra 30 minutes, you know? Or if you're in a situation where like you're working under somebody else's deadline, you kind of have to advocate for that time.
Yeah.
You know, and part of that is giving other people kind of a window into your process so that they understand, oh yeah, once the video is published, you still have work you need to do. I can't like pull you into a meeting right after you're finished with that project. I need to give you a little bit of extra time so that you can do that finishing stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah. When I thought about this topic, I think my brain went in a little bit of a different direction, and it was more like the excitement that you have for a project in the beginning, and sometimes like it lasts even until the middle.
Yeah, well, let's take it there too, because that's definitely relevant.
Yeah, you hit the final section, and maybe you've lost your excitement for something new, or
most times what it is for me is that I'm my brain's already on the next project. And so
yeah.
like I've transferred my excitement and
To
my
something
motivation
new.
to
Yeah.
something new. And
Uh-huh.
it's like, wait, you're still here?
Yeah,
Kind of
it's
thing.
the shiny new project. Yeah, writers talk a lot about that where when we're in the final stretch of one book, there's a new idea that comes up and you're like, "Oh, but I want to get started on that." And that's the hazard if you continue going on to new ideas, is that you will never finish that first one,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not really sure how to help people finish that though, because I feel like I have a personality that, like, if I commit to something, I see it through, and there's no like, even if it harms me, or like steals my time or makes me feel stressed and all of that, if I commit to it, I do it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think one of the really practical things you can do is kind of uh, trying to think of the word that I'm looking for. You can remind yourself of the purpose behind what you're doing, and and so that looks like, thinking to the videos that I make. I'm like, well, I know this video can help somebody get unstuck, make progress on what they're doing.
yeah.
That's the purpose behind why I'm making this in the first place.
So thinking of the outcome or what you hope to do with
Yeah.
the project.
And a lot of times that'll kind of pull my passion back a little bit more. And then if I want to make it really powerful, I can think of a specific person. Like I just use, you can use your imagination and imagine somebody. So like if you make educational content, that's kind of the example that I'm giving. But imagine somebody's having trouble figuring something out and you're making a video about that thing. And it's like, they're going to sit down and that video is going to get published because you finished it.
Yeah.
And they're going to watch it and it's going to make their day because it's like, oh, now I know how to do this thing. I can, or if you make entertainment content, something that's funny, or, like there's a person having a bad day and they're bored and scrolling through YouTube. I keep using YouTube because that's my world, but
yeah.
But you could do it with books too. Like somebody is struggling through something, and this is specific to like the style of books you write and the topics that you deal with. But like somebody is struggling through something really personal in their childhood, kind of that transition between childhood and being a young adult. And then they sit down and they start reading your book and they start to feel hopeful, and they start to like see a light at the end of the tunnel, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so like those are, and that's really practical. That's not like, it takes some like sitting down and actually thinking and using your imagination. Maybe if it helps to like write it down and kind of write a story about that scenario. But I think that's a way you can pull your passion back to that project.
Yeah, and that's actually something I do often when I'm starting a project and in the middle of a project, is connecting the purpose to what you're doing. So one of the things that are important as creative people is feeling like we have a purpose in our work. And when we find that purpose and we connect it to the work, sometimes that can even drag us out of those, saggy middles, I like to say, that kind of snowball into I don't know if I want to finish this project kind of thing. So purpose is a big motivator for me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is something too that I do when, and this is about, running long distances, but when I get to the miles where I feel super fatigued, I'll do like a gratitude mile where I just think of all of the things I'm grateful for. So I feel like that could be a trick that we use when things get hard in creative work too, is just expressing gratitude for the creative gift that we have, and that we, like, I feel gratitude all the time that I get to use what I have to impact people's lives.
Yeah. And, in your day-to-day experience, I think a lot of people, no matter what you do and how awesome it is, can have a tendency to fall into that pattern of thinking, about the negatives and stuff like that. Like my job is awesome. I work remotely, so I don't have to go into an office. I basically make my own hours, and I get to help people like me share their work and make an impact, and I get to do that using video, which is something I love doing. I love making videos. It really is a dream. But then, like there are times when I just kind of get into these ruts.
Yeah.
And it's not, you don't necessarily go there on purpose. And I think that's actually the point. Like you're just kind of coasting, and you gradually drift into it, and then one day find yourself, oh, I'm not enjoying myself. And I find that gratitude and like thinking about all the reasons why what you get to do is awesome really just pulls you out of that.
Yeah, pulls you back into creative people always, we go through our ups and downs because that's just the way our brains work. There's a lot of resistance to creative work.
Yeah, there is. I think to close out this episode, with the holidays coming up and stuff, you might be in a situation like me where you've got deadlines and you're trying to hustle to get things done. And this is a little bit antithetical to what we're saying here, but I think there's also room to say maybe you won't get everything done, everything checked off on your list before that break comes, and that's okay. Like the work is still going to be there when you come back after your weekend or week or couple of weeks of vacation, whatever that looks like for you. It's okay to put that stuff down. And I think part of the idea of behind finishing strong really goes back to what you were talking about in the beginning. It's being able to delineate between, okay, this is stuff that I'm doing for work, and this is me time, this is home time, this is family time.
Yeah.
And creating a clear boundary between those things, even if it's just, in your own mind.
Yeah.
So that you can actually rest and actually be present with people.
Yeah, maybe the way you finish the year strong is that you say, I'm putting away work for 2 weeks and spending time with the people I love.
Yeah. That sounds like a good way to finish the year.
Yeah.
I'm all about
Agreed.
it. All right. Well, I think this was good. We're just keeping it short because we're doing a double episode today. So we're about to jump into the next episode, which remind me again, what are we talking about?
The importance of play.
The importance of play. All right. So we will get into that. Rachel, where can people find you online?
RachelTolson.com.
And I'm at bentolson.com, and I'm at Ben Tolson on all of the things.
I am at Rachel Tolson at all the things. Sorry.
Yeah.
Forgot to say.
All good. And our podcast is at intheboatpodcast.com. We've got our episodes there and other information. Feel free to check that out. And if you want to help out the show, share it with somebody who might need to hear some of these episodes. That would make our day.
Yep.
So, all right. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. I think
do a quick after show.
Yeah, I think we could do a quick after show.
I was just going to say one thing that I have not finished strong on is wrapping gifts.
I feel like the amount of anxiety I feel about wrapping gifts is disproportionate to like the importance of it.
I think we should just put it in a box.
I'm serious. Like I'm thinking about the whole, because we do. We don't go all out.
No,
but
we don't.
like we do
But
have
there are
these.
6 children.
There are 6 children.
So even if there's one gift,
yeah,
that's
We-
6.
yeah, we have this butcher paper that we use,
Mm-hmm.
and then we use yarn to like
Make it pretty.
make it pretty,
Yeah.
and then we have the patterned craft paper, and what are the things called with the cutout?
Little punch outs.
Yeah, the
Yeah. Punches.
Yeah, the die cut punch
Mhm.
out things. So like some are circles, some are like little tag looking things,
Mhm.
and then we put a little hole in that so we can tie it to the thing and put their name. It's a whole process.
It is, yeah.
And
I mean, it's more simplified than, most gift wrapping, because I try to be eco-friendly and stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, it's.
And then they're just gonna rip it.
Mhm.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Yeah,
We're still gonna wrap gifts, probably.
maybe.
We'll see.
I vote for Amazon boxes, everything piled in.
Or Trader Joe's bags.
Yeah.
I have lots of those.
Yeah, it's true. This is how you finish the holiday strong. Oh, a gift wrapping charity. That's cool.
Cody coming in clutch with the ideas. I love it.
Great.
Yeah. See, I don't even think about stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's a great idea though.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll have to
we'll look that up.
check it out. All right, on to the next show.
Yep.
I'll do the intro and
Okay.
we'll just jump into it. Hello and welcome to In the Boat with Ben and Rachel. I'm Ben,
And I'm Rachel.
and this podcast exists to address common creator struggles and provide weekly inspiration for your creator journey. And today, I think this is going to be a fun episode because we're talking about
Play.
the importance of play. I almost said the importance of fun. I guess there's kind of the
Yeah,
same.
I mean, play should be fun.
but what are
Well, you
go
know
ahead.
what? When I think of play, I think of when our kids were really young,
Mhm.
and they always, they wanted to play with the toy cars and stuff like that, and it was so tedious to me. Like, there are some people who are really good at playing with their kids, but I don't feel like I was one of them. If they wanted to like run around or run a mile down to the school or something, I was all for that. But I was not a good playmate with my kids. I feel bad. They don't do that anymore, but now they want to play like basketball and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh
And-
yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, and Mario Kart.
Yeah, I'll do Mario Kart. I don't do many video games, but
Yeah. There's, this episode isn't about parenting, but I will say that playing with your kids, you think about all the things that you feel like are important. Being a parent, it's like you're trying to teach them, over the course of 18 years, how to become a functioning human being who can survive on their own and be okay and be emotionally, mentally, and physically healthy. But I think few things are as impactful as spending time playing with your kids.
yeah.
And not just playing, so like it is playing those tedious games that
Yeah,
are like,
I mean, I would do it anyway.
But
I
it's-
just wasn't any good at it.
yeah, but it's so like a really practical example of this recently, our 16-year-old had a birthday, and we always have a family fun day where we just as a family will go and do something. And the thing he wanted to do was not go to the zoo or go to a museum or go to an amusement park. He wanted us to sit down at the kitchen table, all 8 of us, each on our own individual device, and play Minecraft together. We
Yeah.
have a
I had
subscription
no idea
to
what I was doing.
yeah. We have a subscription to Minecraft Realms, and what that does is it creates a server that everybody can like log into and be on at the same time, and that you can build together and you can, you know, get mine materials together. I don't know. I don't know enough of, I really need to learn more. But it made his day,
Yeah.
you know, and
I don't know if I've seen him that happy in
yeah.
a long time.
So, but I, you know, I think about that when I was a kid, those times when I could just use my imagination and there weren't any rules about like, here's how you're supposed to play. Like here are the things you're supposed to do. Is like, no, we make our own rules. We're playing chess, but this one pawn that has a little chip out of it, it can move like a queen, or, you know, like whatever. So that I think is an example, or not an example, but maybe like a metaphor for the kind of energy and the kind of play, the kind of mentality that I think is important every once in a while to bring to your creative work.
And play looks different to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, like what feels and looks like play to me may not be the same thing that looks and feels like play to you. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a good question to ask. Is what do you think constitutes play?
I'm going to answer that in just a second.
Oh.
I'm going to go get my charger for this laptop that's about to die
Oh.
so that we don't drop
Yeah.
the stream.
Okay. I guess I can start with what well, no, I need to wait for you because he needs to hear it too. So, radio silence, here we go.
You're just sitting silently while I was gone.
Yeah, I wanted you to hear too in case, you know, it was relevant. So,
All right. Hopefully that's okay. So what does play look like to me?
Probably in both personal and creative work, because I feel like they're both important to creative work, you know?
Yeah. That's, you know, for personally, that's kind of a hard one. Lately, I think it's looked like working on construction projects. I don't know if that's a good answer. I'm just thinking about, like, I mean,
construction can be play, I feel like.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not something you do every single day for your job.
Yeah. Well, like when I built this backdrop that we have, this is an 8-foot by 8-foot wall behind us in our garage. The shelf over here over my shoulder is something I built. This table. Even the camera is sitting on something that I constructed specifically for the way that we're using it. So it's not like an actual tripod. It's a metal pipe.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a metal pipe that I bought from Home Depot, and I put special fittings on it so that I could attach the teleprompter to it. You know, and
Your
so
brain
it's like,
is kind of amazing. I can't even imagine doing something like that.
well, I love
Solving
problems.
problems,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love solving problems. I recently worked on the fence. I've never done a fence before, but and so like the practical thing to do, the way that you follow the rules is you watch a YouTube video and you learn about, oh, this is how you're supposed to build a fence. That's not what I like to do, and I'm kind of this way with. That's why I like cooking instead of baking, because I don't like following rules. But I've looked at different fences and I'm like, oh, I think I can see how you'd put that together.
Yeah.
And so I just like, okay, I'm just going to go for it. and I get to a spot and I'm like, oh, I even made a mistake. Like the way that I put the post in was like not lined up correctly with the existing fence, and I had to figure out a way to make it to where it was, it was going to be a straight face instead of like
Yeah.
sticking. All of that to say, like, I'm putting myself into a situation where I don't know what's going to happen or what problems I'm going to encounter. I just have a vision for what I want to get done, and I'm going to see what happens. And that's a lot of fun. Yeah. So I guess that counts as play.
Yeah.
I put myself in that situation sometimes with my work too, with making videos. I have kind of a basic idea for what I want to do. There's the kind of content that I make that's like, there's a process that I follow. It's very predictable. And even in there, it's like, but I'm not sure in the editing process, like what ideas I'm going to have and how I might, represent some idea visually.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of play in there, but especially when I do marketing campaigns where I'm like, coming up with an interesting idea, like
Yeah.
the one that I made for the Black Friday sale where I cut my clothes and like
Oh yeah. That was
pretended to
good.
be a fashion motif artist.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe that's not like the best approach to marketing, but I got some good responses from it,
And you had fun doing
and
it.
I had so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, what about you? Sorry, I felt like I
Oh,
went
that's
on.
okay.
There's a fly.
I think in the personal realm, I really enjoy like going to amusement parks with our children, and that feels like play to me. Even if I don't ride as many roller coasters as I used to because things get a little I get a little nauseated after a few now. But it's always fun for me to watch them have fun and, see all of that. So that feels like play. I think sometimes, not in my current season, but sometimes running feels like play to me.
Yeah.
And some of the workouts, I just picked up rowing, and that is super fun. And it makes me want to actually like go out on the water and play that way.
Yeah.
So one of these days we might have to take some kind of trip where we get to row. Yeah, so those kind of things. Reading always feels like play to me. I love reading books out loud to our children. Like that's probably one of my favorite ways that we connect and stuff. So
Yeah.
those are play. And then for work, I sometimes, ways that I play in my creative realm, I'll just challenge myself to do something maybe that I've never done before, like write a story, or if I wanted to like commit to it, a book that's in a genre that I've never tried before.
Yeah.
I have this little game. We've never actually played it with the kids, but I use it sometimes just for inspiration. And last year I told myself, okay, I'm going to do this game and I'm actually going to write a book based off of the cards that I draw. So you draw cards and you put them together and it creates a character. So I created two characters. One was a swimmer who was also a yes man. And then the other one was a princess who's always late. And so I did a story, like it's a YA romance about, this former model who runs late everywhere, and this swim instructor who, like, anytime people ask him to do something, he's like, oh yeah, even if it's like bringing him down. And you know, so it was like the funnest. And I had never written a romance before or anything like that. So it was probably one of the funnest projects I had worked on. So it's just things like that. Sometimes I'll use little prompts from other people, or prompts that I've written myself but don't remember writing.
Yeah.
That just like, that takes you out of what you're normally doing and allows you to like play a little bit.
And I think that's the definition I think is important to think about with this idea. Is it's not your typical like oh, this is the thing that you do every time you show up for work,
Yeah.
or every time you show up to do creative work. It's something that is a little bit outside of the box.
Right.
And yeah, so every time I play, I end up learning things about my process. I end up trying, like you're describing, trying things that are outside of your
Yeah.
comfort zone maybe, and and what that does for your normal creative work, for the stuff that you're always doing, is it breathes fresh life and gives you new ideas.
Yeah.
And that's the value that I've found from making time for play with my creative work, is the all of the interesting things that I can bring into the
Yeah.
regular work that I'm doing because of that.
Well, and stepping aside from creative work, when we play in our day-to-day lives too, with our families, or just, treating ourselves to something, it also enhances our creative life, because creativity is not just relegated to our work. We're creative in our lives too. And whatever we do throughout the day, whether it's personal or work, is always informing our creative work. you
Yeah.
know? So sometimes the best thing we can do is take time off and, play for a day or something, just to, I don't know, just to help us think better. And our brains love play,
Oh yeah.
because it allows our brains to just open and receive. And to do creative work, we have to have open brains,
Yeah.
so.
Going back to the parenting thing, I keep thinking about how many parallels there are, because if you spend time, there are lots of kind of tough conversations that you need to have as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Your kid is learning new things about the world every day, and some of those things are scary, some of those things they're not ready for, some of those things they don't have the right context for, and so like every day there's a possibility for, like, oh, there's some conversation that
Mm-hmm.
and it can be really difficult just to, like, initiate those conversations. Like, it's not like the kids are coming to you necessarily,
Yeah.
being like, hey, we need to talk about this thing, but something happens in the world, they see a headline on a newspaper, or
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel like play becomes it in the same way that we're kind of talking about
Mm-hmm.
creative work. It makes the brain feel safe enough, I think.
To explore those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to have those conversations, and especially when there's kind of this shared
Mm-hmm.
play, you get to experience that sense of trust and safety together.
Mm-hmm.
That really opens up the floor for
Yeah.
those conversations.
It's been well documented that how beneficial play can be to our physical lives, our emotional lives, and our creative lives. I don't have all the research right here, but
Yeah.
over the years I've read so much about how beneficial play is. And I mean, there are counseling models that exist based on play therapy, because play is just so good for, like, exactly what you said too,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's you go to, like, a children's therapy
Mm-hmm.
office, and they have, like, a wall of shelves
Mm-hmm.
with just toys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't
I
we?
know. I mean, sometimes we're just big kids, right?
Yeah. Why don't I get some, like, coloring books and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that to sit down with while I might do that.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very fortunate to have through my work, free mental health care through BetterHelp.
Yeah.
And this show is not sponsored by BetterHelp, but they're definitely worth checking out if you don't have another option available.
Yeah.
But anyways, I have these sessions online. It's kind of like a Zoom call, but it's through their website, and so there's I get to see and talk to my therapist that way, and I should have like a little goodie
little
thing with
area
me
where
that I'm like,
yeah.
I'm gonna keep talking to you, but I also have this coloring book, and
Yeah.
just kind of I have a pretty easy time opening up and feeling comfortable with my
Yeah.
therapist, because we've got a good rapport and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of, especially if you're someone who feels like a little bit apprehensive about opening up to somebody,
Yeah.
having something else to do to kind of keep your brain occupied, I think could be helpful.
Yeah. I was gonna sorry, my ear just like clogged up. I've been sick for like the last week. This is another thing to do with like our kids, but I feel like it applies to regular life too. I remember times when there was a lot of tension or a lot of arguments and things like that in the house, and we would put on music and just have like an impromptu dance party.
Dance party.
And dance is like, I forgot to list that as one of my playthings. I love to dance. And there were times that I remember feeling silly, but like the sillier you are, the better you feel, and the more the kids laugh and all,
Yeah.
it's just so much fun to have this dance party. We don't do it as much anymore with them, but I still love, those are some of my favorite memories.
Yeah.
So I guess, to apply that to where we are now, if you're feeling down in the dumps or there's tension or whatever, like go move your body through dance and just have fun.
Dancing really is magical.
Mm-hmm. You have to not be afraid of how you look, though. Like you have to get out of your head.
100%. Yeah. And that means that if you're dancing with other people, you have to agree together that you're not going to judge each other
Right.
about in a negative way. Like, make all the positive comments you want
Yeah.
about my twerking abilities, but I'm actually a pretty good dancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can just
Okay.
what was that look?
It's fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this topic, or I feel like really we were just talking about our experience with play, but I don't know that anybody is going to take much convincing that there's a lot of value in making time for play as a part of your creative work.
I think one thing to add is, like I said in the beginning, play looks different for everyone. And I think that we have to do the work of finding out what really feels and looks like play to us.
Yeah.
So when we hear the suggestions that we have here and we think, well, I could try dancing, but I don't really enjoy it, then don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, find your own thing that feels like play, because it's important for you to feel like you can relax and just have fun.
Absolutely.
Fun is important.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time to listen, and I hope this was helpful and encouraging for you. If you want to help out the show, share an episode with somebody else. Spread the love around. We want to, the reason we show up and do this is because we want to inspire and encourage people who, like us, are trying to put their creative work into the world. And so, so if any of these episodes can help someone do that, we want to make sure they get a chance to listen. So share it. And Rachel, where can people find you?
RachelTolson.com, and I'm at Rachel Tolson at all the things.
And you can find me at bentolson.com, and I'm at Ben Tolson on all of the things. Thank you so much again for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. All right, after show time.
All right.
let's talk about how did you play when you were a kid?
Oh gosh.
What was play like for you when you were a kid?
Well, I lived out in the middle of nowhere, so we were surrounded by cornfields, and we would play hide and seek in the cornfields sometimes.
Creepy.
Yeah, really creepy. Oh, it was so scary, and we would do it like after dark too. That was really bad.
What?
We would play hide and seek in the dark too, and I remember one time I hid in the middle of a room with like a huge bear in front of me, and nobody found me. My brother did not find me. My sister didn't find me. It was great. It was the greatest. I just sat there like kind of snickering.
Yeah.
We would make forts out of blackberry vines, which I learned later rattlesnakes really like. And we would always find the rattlesnake skins. And we never told my mom that we were out there like making forts. We lived in a house that it had a huge field where there were like cows and stuff, and we would run all the way through the field, and there was this tree that had like a cow skull on it, and we thought that was our hideout place, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then we'd run back across, and there was a bull that would always chase us, and so we would like, you know how people slide into home and stuff. We
Yeah.
would slide under our electric fence into our garden.
Wow.
We were like wild children. It was
Yeah.
the greatest. But I would tell stories about it all, you know, like that was just what I was like the family recorder.
Mm-hmm.
My mom never knew any of that stuff, but like I would tell it to my cousins and my brother and sister. It was the greatest.
Well, that makes the way that I played as a kid seem kind of tame. When I think about play as a kid, it's hard for me to separate it from like the locations where we lived. So when I was younger, we lived in kind of a suburban area in
Mm-hmm.
California, and we played with a lot of the kids in our neighborhood and stuff. But my brother and I, we played a lot of games together, and we even made up things. And so like
Mm-hmm.
we made
yeah,
up,
that's what we did.
this is, I say we made this up. I don't mean we invented it. I
Yeah.
mean, we weren't aware of it, and we just like came up with something to do because we
Yeah.
were bored. But we have a tennis ball, and whoever had the tennis ball threw it up in the air as high as they could, and then it was a race to see who could get the tennis ball first. And then if you got the tennis ball, then you got to be the next person to throw it up in the air. It's such a such a simple
I thought
game.
maybe the person would like hit the other person with the ball. That's probably how we would have played.
Yeah.
Like
Maybe
a
so.
dodgeball with a tennis ball.
And then we started doing this. We started doing this thing where I would lie down on my back. We did it on the grass. I would lie down on my back and kind of prop my feet up in the air to where my brother could sit on my feet.
Oh, we did that. Yeah.
And then I would launch him, and he would fly so far. I'm surprised he
man.
didn't break any bones or anything. Maybe I'm remembering it, different. Like it wasn't really that big of a deal. When we lived in Colorado, we lived on 20 acres. So it was a completely different experience.
Yeah, I got to run wild.
But I actually remember, because, we talked about like building things, how I like to build things now. I did a lot of that kind of thing. Like we had spare wood sitting around and stuff. And I really enjoyed making things.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, around that time, I was really starting to get into art, drawing, illustrating, that kind of thing. But I was really interested in architecture, and not just interior, but like also landscape architecture and stuff like that. And so I would design houses. I would design these like really sprawling maps of like my dream property that would have a river, a lazy river running through it. It would have a houseboat with like a swing, and I could jump off into the lake. We'd have water slides. We'd have a go-kart area. Like I came
Wow.
up with all of this stuff, and I would just kind of like live there in my mind a little bit and imagine
like
what
a
it would be like.
Disney World or something.
I even convinced myself that somehow I would be able to have the ocean, like move the ocean shore to where we lived in Colorado so that we would have ocean access too.
That's great.
Yeah.
The dreams of children.
Yeah. Music was a big part of it too. Music.
Yeah, for me too.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, I might mention this next week. Remind me. But my goal is to write and record an album over the holiday break.
Oh gosh.
Might be a little bit ambitious.
I think that is ambitious.
We'll see what happens though. I really want to share some music, and I've got some songs that I've been working on.
Yeah, we have a lot of old ones too that we never.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm working on specifically. I'm working on a whole new project that is songs that are themed after. They're themed after some of my memories of living in Colorado, and some of it's kind of mixed. You know, like there were good things and bad things, and so
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a kind of emotional exploration of that transition period. That was when I was like from 11 until I was 14.
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of
adolescence.
yeah, and so I'm excited to kind of dig into some of those memories and try to represent them through song and
Yeah.
hopefully get it done and share it with people. I'll keep you posted.
Just don't burn the candle at both ends for a, you know,
Yeah. Okay.
for a nice to have product or something. Whatever.
No, this is gonna be my big start
Oh. Okay.
at the age of 40.
Uh-huh.
No, I just, I think it's good for my heart to work on those things and to
Yeah.
share them with people. So, yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in and listening. And we'll be back next week with one more episode
Yep.
before we close out this season. Yep. And we'll announce in the next episode how long the break's going to be and when we're coming back and that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
All right.
So we'll see you next week.
All right.